When you see those massive climate protests in the news, have you ever wondered what's really going on behind the headlines? It's not just random anger, you know? There's a strategy. Today, we're going to unpack the exact moment modern climate activism completely reinvented itself, shifting from protesting summits to a whole new kind of fight. Okay, let's get into it.
So, here's our roadmap. We'll start with the story of two totally different scenes happening in Paris at the same time. Then we'll define what ecological resistance actually is, and dig into the complex system it's fighting against. After that, we'll see how this whole strategy just exploded onto the world stage, and finally, ask the big question: what does it all mean for the future?
Okay, picture this. It's December 2015. The world's attention is laser-focused on Paris. But what most people didn't see is that there were two completely different stories unfolding in the very same city. On one side, you have the official narrative. The UN is on stage, declaring this huge, landmark victory. The press releases are all painting this amazing picture of global unity, a truly historic moment where humanity finally came together to save the planet. Celebration, right?
Well, then there's the other side. Just a short hop from all those triumphant press conferences, inside a building on Rue Voltaire, the atmosphere could not have been more different. It was tense, it was angry, and frankly, a lot of people felt like it was hopeless. So, what was going on over there?
Inside that building, more than 150 activists from every corner of the globe were locked in this intense debate about the very future of their movement, and they came to a pretty stunning conclusion. The old way, it wasn't working. Protesting these giant global summits was basically a dead end. The new path forward? Forget the summits. Go local. Hit the fossil fuel industry where it hurts with coordinated, direct acts of civil disobedience all over the world. This was a massive pivot.
And this huge strategic shift has a name, and it's really the core idea we're exploring today: ecological resistance.
So what is it exactly? Well, think of it as a form of activism that sees things like oil spills or deforestation not as isolated problems, but as symptoms of a much bigger, broken system. And to fight that system, it uses direct, confrontational, and often rule-breaking actions.
And this chart just lays out the difference perfectly. You know, traditional nature conservation tends to work within the system to, say, protect a specific national park. But ecological resistance, it challenges the system itself, because the goal isn't just preservation, it's fundamental systemic change. It's a whole different ballgame.
And this quote just brilliantly explains the strategy. It draws on the philosopher Foucault, and the idea is, look, don't try to fight some vague, abstract chief enemy, like capitalism as a whole. No, find the immediate enemy, a specific pipeline project, a single coal plant, and use that local, tangible fight as a lever to attack the entire destructive system it represents. But what is this system they're actually resisting? It's not some shadowy figure in a back room. It's a complex web of power that academics have a name for, and it's a bit of a mouthful: green governmentality.
Let's break that down. Essentially, it's a system where governments frame climate change not as a political or ethical crisis, but as an economic problem that's best solved by the free market. You know, think carbon trading schemes and offsets. And the crucial part is, this approach lets the state take a step back and shift the real burden of action onto everyone else.
The key tactic here is something called responsibilization. That's the fancy word for making you, the consumer, feel responsible for solving the climate crisis with your reusable coffee cup, or making small nonprofits feel responsible for planting trees, all while the most powerful political institutions get to avoid making the tough, structural changes that are actually needed.
So activists have really zeroed in on three of these big market-based schemes: emissions trading, the Clean Development Mechanism, or CDM, and REDD+, a program meant to reduce deforestation. From where the activists are standing, these programs often create way more problems than they actually solve.
And if you want a stark, real-world example of why, look at this. A project in India, which was officially registered under the Clean Development Mechanism, actually ended up supporting a coal plant. Activists on the ground reported that it led to more pollution, local people getting pushed off their land, and even violent crackdowns on anyone who protested. This is the reality that ecological resistance is up against. So how in the world do you fight back against a system that's so good at passing the buck? Well, activists engage in what the source material calls a politics of responsibility. It's really a three-part playbook. First, they just refuse to play the game. They turn down invitations to participate in policy meetings they see as rigged from the start.
Second, they redefine who's really responsible by directly confronting and naming and shaming the corporations involved. And third, they demand re-responsibilization. Basically, they oppose the market-based fixes and insist that governments take back the responsibility they've tried to offload. Okay, so we've covered the theory, we've gone inside that crucial strategy meeting in Paris. Now let's look at the absolutely explosive results of putting that strategy into practice.
The timeline here is just crystal clear. 2015, the big decision is made. For the next few years, the movement quietly builds power through smaller, coordinated local actions. And then, boom. In 2019, that strategy pays off on a scale that I don't think anyone could have predicted.
6 million people. Just let that number sink in. That was the estimated turnout for the global climate strike in September 2019. The decision made by just 150 activists in a room in Paris had, just a few years later, mobilized millions. And 2019 was so much more than just that one strike. It was this incredible, diverse wave of global action. You had the student strikes, you had Extinction Rebellion shutting down major cities, and you had groups like Ende Gelände in Germany organizing these massive direct actions against coal infrastructure. The vision from that meeting room in Paris had become a global reality.
So, let's zoom out. What does this all add up to? Is this huge shift in strategy pointing towards something bigger? Maybe even a new way of thinking about revolution itself?
Well, the stories the movement tells itself are definitely changing. It kind of started with this green progress idea, that we can just tweak capitalism and fix things. Then came the apocalyptic story, act now or we're all doomed, which mobilizes people through fear. But a new story is taking hold, a post-apocalyptic one. It says the disaster isn't some far-off future event, it's already started for many communities. And that mobilizes people not through fear, but through a sense of mourning and a powerful demand for justice.
And this all leads to a really cool concept called nowtopia. The idea is basically to stop waiting around for some big, future revolution to save us. Instead, the goal is to start building the better world you want right here, right now, through practical, on-the-ground actions. It's about creating little pockets of the future today.
So here's the final, crucial takeaway. This new form of ecological resistance seems to be rejecting that old 20th century idea of a single, all-or-nothing, total revolution. But, and this is key, it doesn't reject the idea of revolutionary change itself. Instead, it suggests a future of many revolutions, plural. Revolutions happening locally, constantly, and all at the same time. Which leaves us with a pretty big question. What does a world shaped by this decentralized, immediate, and constant form of resistance actually look like?